you
I
tell me
don't know.
that?
You have
I'm
a little
wired.
white box?
I'm wired.
Okay. If we can't hear you, I will have you speak on the mic.
All right, that's fine. Can you guys hear me? No? Oh, well.
There you go.
Speaking to one of these. Now can you hear me? Okay, good. So just to clear the record a little bit, to clarify, yes, everything Christine says is correct, except I'm now retired. So I retired about a year ago.
A year ago.
About a year ago. Yeah, not a problem. All right, so I was here. I was supposed to speak. Where's Bill? I was supposed to speak here the day before, coincidentally, the day before the government shut down for COVID, not unlike your story. And then obviously that got delayed. So I was here 2 years ago. My presentation then was delayed by 2 years. Did anybody see me present then? Okay, good. You did, Christina. I'm glad. Thank you for showing up. So the last time Ellen and I were invited to Christina's house some months ago, and we're not weird or anything like that. I don't go into people's garage or into people who do go into the garage. I don't go into their medicine cabinets or anything like that. It's kind of rude, But I do like cars. I'm a guy, and so I went into Christina's garage. I wanted to see what she drove, what her and her husband drove, and I was curious. And oh my God, you can't believe it! I took a picture of the inside of Christina's garage. So here we go. Oh, is this going to work?
Other direction, Jeff.
Other one? There you go. So
It's not actually my garage. All right.
Christina's doing very well. This is, I don't know how to make this smaller. The whole top is getting cut off. Pardon?
That's okay. You
All right, anyway, I'll keep talking. So yeah, so I'm Jeff Smallowitz. My wife, Ellen, who is down here, where is...
This up, or that up too.
What do you do? Does that help?
What's up?
All right, well, hopefully you'll be able to see the top of the screen.
The top we've got. That's not our problem. All right. Keep
Let's just
talking.
see what happens. Okay, so yes, in 2010, my wife Ellen and I began lending our own money. There's a long story behind it, but I don't want to take all the time. But it amounted me shooting my mouth off at a real estate club. I mean, literally, that's what happened. We couldn't find anything to buy. We were looking for apartment buildings at the time. In hindsight, should have bought everything, but we didn't know that then. So out of frustration at a real estate club at Matt Owen's Phoebe Club in Long Beach, I got up and I said, well, we can't find any apartment buildings. Maybe we'll just lend our money. This is in 2010 at the bottom of the market. I mean, there was no money out there. There was nothing, but there were a lot of deals out there. So by the end of the meeting, no money, a lot of deals, and I said, we have some money. Everybody wanted to be my best friend. And I mean, that is what happened. And from that point on, we became private lenders. And it's been a great business for us because as you heard, having had another career, which I enjoyed a lot, private lending has been perfect for us because each loan does not take a whole lot of time. We can talk about that a little bit. It's a really good business, and we've been doing it ever since. Let me go on, and I'll talk more about it as we go. Let me hit the wrong. Okay, so we can see. I think we can see everything. This is good. So, some years ago, it was before COVID. I was at a conference, American Association of Private Lenders, if you've ever heard of it. It's a big organization now. And I was just hanging around with a bunch of some pretty battle-hardened lenders that had been around for a long time. This is probably 2017, I'll guess. And they were telling these just hair-raising stories. And I couldn't add anything to the conversation. And I said to one of them, boy, we haven't experienced anything like this. And what he told me, and you will find this true as well, but what he said to me was, you just haven't been lending long enough. You haven't been in the business long enough. And the same is true with real estate. I mean, if you do a lot of deals, if you've been around a while, you're going to have some stories to tell. Hopefully you're going to learn from the stories. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So it's been some years since. Now I do have a history of some case studies, I'm calling them, but issues that have happened with us. So I've got about half a dozen of them here. We're going to be talking about historic homes. Who was I talking about? Yeah, it was Nancy. So you're going to hear about historic homes in a little bit. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. We have I blew it. The 5-year flip, for real, took 5 years. Beware of the nice little old lady in Santa Ana. There's a fix and flip that we did in Riverside, which some people thought was the Taj Mahal. Wire fraud, identity theft. Will the real Jeff Smallowitz please stand up? This was interesting. Title fraud. Who owns this house? And then I wanted to talk a little bit about retirement plan fraud and some things you really need to be careful of, in particular if you have a self-directed IRA. Nothing to be alarmed about, but there are just some things that I think you should understand so you can make some informed decisions about your IRA and where you have it. So I'm going to go through as many of these as I can, and if I can't get to everything, happy to talk about it after. So let's go through 8310 Comstock Avenue. And one of the things I'll point out, I'm going to tell you the address. I'm going to tell you everything you want to know about these properties. This is absolute full disclosure. They're real. You can look them up. You can check on our involvement. I did want to introduce one person here tonight, Sal Fernandez. Sal, why don't you stand up for a second? So Sal and I and Ellen have known each other for a long time. How many houses have you flipped?
Probably 400, 500.
Yeah, all in the LA area. So we've done many dozens of deals with Sal. We know him very well. And the same thing, you know, if you've done enough deals with anybody, eventually weird things are going to happen. So that's where we're at right now. So I keep doing this, hitting the wrong button. So 8310 Comstock Avenue, also called the Jordan House, built in 1888, which beats your record by 2 years, I think, Nancy. Now, right off the bat, this should tell you something. Be careful if the house has a name. Okay, if the word "the" is associated with the house, that's the first clue for you, okay? We didn't know any better then, and this was Sal's property. One of the things that you should learn or understand about historic houses, if you're going to do historic houses, is there's always a historic committee or historic society associated with the house. And they come in various flavors. So in this case, in Whittier, and this was not in the area in Whittier where there were all the historic houses. This was a little bit farther away, although it didn't make any difference. But in Whittier, there's a local community historic society, the Whittier Historic Society, the state has a historic society, and then if you get lucky, your house is on the National Register. Now, if any of you have ever been to the racetrack, when you hit four horses in a row, it's called, you know what that's called? I just learned this. It's called the superfecta. So two horses is exacta, 3 is trifecta. Sal hit the superfecta. Unfortunately, though, the money went the wrong way. So work began on this. We loaned on the property in 2012. It's a really pretty house right now, you can see, but when he bought it, it was a disaster, all boarded up, faded, big piece of land. The garage was a disaster. This place was a mess, and it literally took him until 2017 to sell the place. We were very patient. Let me divert for a second, though, because one of the things that you should do if you get into a project that you know is going to take a long time, you always want equity in the property. You always want to be safe. So most of you have probably seen this. This is the Case-Shiller home prices in Los Angeles. This is not the national chart. The national chart is actually a little bit flatter. Those of you that have been around a while might recall that prices just started to, there's like this craziness in the market till 2006. Everybody thinks it was 2008. No, it really started in 2006 where prices flattened out. And then in January 2007, this is where everything really did collapse. banks, they quit lending. It was just a disaster. And then from 2007, for about 2.5 years until 2009, prices just plummeted. So there's about, I think it was about a 40% drop in prices. A lot of people got wiped out. And I will go back and I will tell you, somewhere in here, and I don't remember exactly when it was, but I have a little bit of house flipping experience. I was flipping houses out of state in Cincinnati in the mid-2000s or so. I don't remember when I sold my last house, but it was right around here, and I just got lucky selling it because nobody had any idea what was going on. So in June 2009, the market hit its bottom, then it just sort of flattened out here, went up, down a little bit. Ellen and I started lending right here. So our timing was really good. I've said this before, everybody's entitled to be lucky every once in a while, and that was it. I mean, I don't claim any brilliance or anything like that. We were just in the right place at the right time, and we got lucky. So 2012 is when the market started going up, and we had done a bunch of loans here. When we first started, no idea what we were doing, no idea about the law. Every loan that we did for the first 2 years or so, maybe a little longer, totally illegal. We had no idea. I'm not kidding. They were usurious. I mean, anything over in California, anything over 10%, unless you have a broker originating the loan, is usurious. Broker? Who needs a broker? We didn't know from that. Our loan documents we got from one of our borrowers, genius. That was not a good idea. It was around 2012, it was right around this time that we found a really good lawyer who kind of set us on the right path. We got good documents, we learned the law, and we also got a broker to originate our loans for us. And in fact, we still use that broker now. We've had a really long relationship with him. His name's Kerry. And so he's still around. So 2012 on, everything's legal. And Comstock was bought right around this time. So again, we got lucky. The problem with Comstock was, and by the way, if you have any questions or anything, just yell out. And you don't have to take pictures if you don't want. I'm happy to send this presentation to you. If you want to take pictures, knock yourself out, but don't have to. Just give me your card, whatever. I'm not going to put you on any junk mail list or anything like that. So Comstock was purchased in 2012 for $250,000, which seems like nothing right now, but don't forget, the market was really at the bottom. Hey, Juliana. Rehab estimate was $60,000, and that was a realistic number. ARV was $450,000, so this was a pretty good deal. Estimated that it would take 6 months or so to fix up, but who knew? The problem is there were 4 historic committees monitoring everything and all over Sal. These guys couldn't agree on the time of day. They couldn't agree when to meet. They'd get together. 3 of them would show up, and they say, "Oh, there's only 3 of us, so we've got to delay the meeting." It literally took 5 years for them to get their act together and for Sal to be able to finish the place. Just so you know, when you do a house on the historic register, and it might be some of the others too, I'm not sure, you have to put 2 dumpsters in front of the house. And one dumpster, whatever comes out of the house, you put in that one dumpster. And then somebody from the committee shows up, hopefully, and they look through that dumpster. And they pull things out and say, "Oh, this is a very rare architectural, historically important item. You can't take this out of the house, so you have to put it back in the house." Did you have a question? Well, okay. You have to put it back in the house. So that's the one dumpster. Whatever's left in that dumpster, you put in the other dumpster. And that's the dumpster that gets taken to the dump. So these committees have like this dictatorial control over the place, and they will just drive you crazy. They don't care about money. They don't care about anything. All they care about is, well, I guess keeping their job or whatever. So that's how it goes. So we continuously track this home. And fortunately, from an ARV of $450,000, Sal was able to sell the property in 2017, 5 years later, for $642,000. The actual rehab was actually not that bad. It only came out to $75,000. This could have been a lot worse. And I know, Sal, correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection is you roughly broke even, and you lost money. All right, so you lost some money on it. 25? Okay, that could have been a lot worse. Yeah. So Sal did lose money on it. And the obvious thing here is if you were flipping homes, and we'll get to lessons learned here in a minute, but if you were flipping homes, time is your enemy. You do not want to spend time waiting for committees to get together. Okay, let me go to the next slide. Okay, 918 Lacey Street, right around the same time. This was a beautiful craftsman style, mission style house. Of every house we've ever done, I don't know if you agree, Ellen, but of every house we've ever done, this is one of the few that I wouldn't have mind moving into. I mean, it came out spectacular. The neighborhood was great. The street was great. It was purchased by a really nice young couple, Nathan and Hillary, I remember. In October 2015, they spent $510,000 for it. Rehab estimate was a reasonable $60,000. It needed some work. $60,000 was a fair number to put into it, and the ARV was $740. So it was a pretty good deal. They would have made some money on it. I say would have made some money on it. And the good news is, having learned the lesson from Sal, but not the full lesson, I guess, it was run by just one historic committee, one historic society, run by a nice little old lady. Not a big deal. What could possibly go wrong? All right. So it turns out this nice little old lady was a Benito Mussolini wannabe, total dictator. She had complete control. She also thought she was Martha Stewart, with impeccable taste and all that. And she drove Nathan crazy. She ran the budget from $60,000 to $150,000. So where do you think the profit went? And the other problem was, and I never quite understood where the line got drawn, but as a result of the prices going crazy, Nathan did a lot of the work himself. He had to. But on the other hand, I know in some cases he liked to do that. So I think there was a mistake, a little bit of a mistake there on his part. Anyway, they didn't make any money. Hillary was an agent. She sold the place, and their profit was basically whatever the commission was. So they didn't make any money there either. What are the lessons learned here from historic houses? Anybody? Don't buy them. That's the first obvious one. So be aware of historic homes. Kind of a bigger picture. Don't allow people into your properties that have no economic interest in the property at all. These people, these committees, they don't care whether you make money or not. So stay away. And the only way to stay away from them, and in this case, is not to do historic homes. So we have not done a historic home since Sal sold his property, and that's it. And when people call me about them, I tell them, some of these stories, and hopefully we won't lend on one. Hopefully they listen. Also, if you're involved in a project that either is going to take a long period of time, or you just get into a bad situation, keep an eye on market. So you want to make sure there's always equity in the property when you do something like this. And then, to the degree you can, in this case, Nathan didn't have a whole lot of choice, hire professionals, okay? Don't think that, this is not a hobby, unless you want it to be your hobby, but it's not a hobby. So hire professionals to do the work. Don't think that, you're going to have some fun and do it yourself. The work he did was phenomenal, but they did not make any money here either. So, question on historic houses. Comments? Anything? Okay, I'll go on.
Avoid them.
Avoid them, yeah. Okay, next. 4975 Glen Albin Drive. Sal knows this one as well. So this was a vacant hoarder house in Mount Washington. I say vacant only because it was uninhabited. It had piles of crap in it. I mean, just like shoulder high, just piles of crap. Let me ask you guys a question. Does anybody not know what a bandit sign is? You don't? Okay. So you do, but you don't know what they're called. So when you're driving around and you see on a telephone pole, there's a sign that says, "I will buy your house for cash. Any condition, just call this phone number." That's a bandit sign. In 2020, not that long ago, some wholesaler who I never met, but he put up some bandit signs and he got a call from some guy wanting to sell Glen Albin. And he bought the house. He's one of these wholesalers, actually, kind of an unusual wholesaler. He actually bought the house. He went through title and escrow, the whole thing. He paid about $500,000 for the house, is my understanding. We were not involved in any of that at all. But he got hold of Sal, and Sal bought the house from him for $610,000. Now, where'd Sal get the money? Well, Sal got the money from us. And one of the, I don't know, competitive advantages or something that Ellen and I do, after we've done a few deals with you, we will loan you 100% of the purchase price. So we're not, we don't, we're not going to loan him $500,000 or something like that. So we loaned Sal $610,000 on the property. Plus we did something that we've never done, we hadn't done up till then, and we haven't done since. We loaned him the rehab money. And we didn't do it in draws or anything like that, only because we've known Sal for 100 years. We just gave him the $75,000, added it onto the loan. So the total loan amount here was $685,000. That's kind of an important number. No big deal. This house is like any other deal we've done. Lots and lots of hoarder homes. We've done lots of houses like this. This is actually the best picture I had because the whole house was completely overgrown. Couldn't see anything. This is the only picture I have where you can see a little bit of the house. So it was a normal, boring deal. You know what a swan deal is? Swan is sleep well at night. So if you do a swan deal, you don't have to worry. And to us, this was like any other deal that we've done. No big deal at all. What could possibly happen here? So Sal is a couple of days later. Sal's in the property, and looking at. Yeah, you were about to. So he's about to gut the property, trying to figure out how to get rid of all the crap in the place and all that. And an older gentleman walks in, as I recall the story, and Sal's standing there. The guy walks in. He goes, "Who are you?" The guy goes, "Who are you?" And they do this back and forth, the who are you for a little bit. And finally Sal says, "I own the place. I just bought it." And the guy goes, "You couldn't have bought it. I never sold it. I own the property." Great. So Sal calls me later in the day. And when I hit the button, what do you think is going to appear over here? What do you think we immediately did? Oh. Title claim. So that's where we were. So everybody files a claim with title. And I do, Sal does, the wholesaler does. I don't know what the guy who claimed to own the property did. Nonetheless, we file a title claim. They tell us file a police report as well. We do that, and we're off to the races. At the same time, or right around the same time, the wholesaler writes a check to title for a little over $100,000. He gives title. He paid $500,000. He sold it for about $600,000 to Sal. He's got a $100,000 check, or $100,000 cash. He gives that to title company. So he's even, with exception of some closing costs. Similarly, Sal gives me a check for $75,000 for the rehab money. So Sal is even, with one exception, closing cost, and also Sal maintained property insurance. Because we knew, I'm going to skip this for a second, we knew that one of two things was correct here. We either had a legitimate lien against the property, meaning our note and our deed of trust was valid, Sal really did own the property, and this guy up here was full of crap. We didn't know. Or we had a legitimate title claim. So what would happen if it turns out Sal really did own the property, but it burned down or somebody got hurt on it? You need insurance. So that's what Sal very wisely did. He kept the insurance on there. Right around the time that the claim was filed, and I don't remember the timing here, but somebody called the escrow company, and Sal and the wholesaler happened to use the same escrow and title company, which was coincidence, but good. Somebody called the escrow company, and they called the notary that stamped the original grant deed for the wholesaler when the wholesaler bought the property. And the notary said, you know, I lost my notary book. So what do you think is going on here? And honestly, I've never found out. I never found out what happened there. And there's a little more to it later, and I'll try to remember that. But that's what she said. So I call my attorney, because I don't know what's going to happen here, and I had two questions. I want to know, how long is this going to take? And do I have to hire you? We've never been through anything like this before. And he had seen this like so many times, he was almost finishing my sentences for me, but he told me, plan on taking 2 months to 2 years. Well, 2 months, all right, I don't know about the 2 years. And he also said there's no need to hire him unless somebody files a lawsuit or if title rejects the claim. So fortunately, neither of those happened. What's interesting is the way title determined whether this guy was telling the truth or not, you've got to look at his bank records. You want to see, did he get paid or not? Title can't do that. We can't do that. You can't just go up to somebody and say, I want to look at your bank records. The police can do that. So that's what Title did. It was Chicago Title. It was Annalise was her name. She was great. She really kept us informed. So the title investigation took 4 months. Every month we got a letter. We could make phone calls to Annalise, and she'd tell us exactly what's going on. She was really sharp. And 4 months. So here's what happened. Wholesaler, shockingly, was a victim of a fraudulent grant deed. So this notary thing that happened, I don't know if the notary was in on it. We just don't know what happened. However, it turned out the police found that this guy never got any money. This guy never got any money. So he was telling the truth. He really never sold the property, and Sal bought a stolen house. Who knew? That's how it worked. Good thing is, now we were now out $610,000. So, Sal was even, the wholesaler was even. Ellen and I are wondering about our $610,000. But when everything got cleared up, we received a check from Title for $636,000, which is our principal, and we even got interest. So it was a pretty good investment in 4 months, I'd say. I don't recommend it, but it was a pretty good investment. What we did not get our points, our origination fees, which we let our borrowers defer all their payments. It's just something we do. And they can defer the origination fee if they want. We're happy to take it if they want to give it to us. If not, we just add it to the principal balance, and they pay interest on that. But Title decided, no, we're not going to give you that. I will tell you, Ellen and I were so happy to get this money. I mean, we were happier than pigs and you-know-what. So we didn't care about this. But I did talk to my lawyer. And in fact, I just recently had a conversation with my lawyer. And the lawyer said, you could probably fight it. You might win. You might not win, but it's going to cost you the same amount of money anyway. So just let it go. All right. So what are the lessons learned here? There's one super important lesson. Bill.
Title insurance is inexpensive insurance.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, it's interesting. I can barely read this. Always, 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 I'm going to run out of always here. Always buy title insurance. I will tell you, I go online every once in a while. I look at message boards and stuff, and there's always somebody saying, I'm paying $1 million for a property, and they want me to pay $2,000 for title insurance. Do I really have to buy title insurance? Yes, you really do have to buy title insurance. Some people think if the house is a foreclosure, you don't have to. You do. Or if somebody owned the property for 30 years, they don't have to. You do. $2,000, guys. I mean, for heaven's sakes. It's cheap insurance, not like property insurance. All right, the other thing, so this is, I'm sorry?
It's one time only.
One time only. Yeah, you pay the $2,000 or whatever, and you're done.
And they have a lot of attorneys to fight for you.
They do. Yeah, in fact, Annalise, the title investigator, she was an attorney. So that's who we were dealing with, yeah. They don't want to lose money either, but you know, they're as fair as they can be about it, I suppose. The other thing, this is if you're, if you're buying, you want an owner's title policy. As a lender, you always want a lender's title policy. The owner's title policy ensures that you really own the place. You know, you didn't buy a stolen house or anything like that. As a lender, we don't own the property, but that ensures our position. So we had a first position loan with Sal. We thought we had a first position loan with Sal. And so that's what title insurance does for the lender. We always require, even here, title insurance of 125% of the loan amount. And so if you're a lender, if you're going to loan money, make sure that you get 125%, because if we had only written the loan without the construction part of it, we would have loaned $110,000 to Sal. And had we not had the 125% here, this would have been 110, which wouldn't have been a disaster, but we did get our interest. So you always want to do that. And if title ever gives you a hard time about any of this, you call escrow and you say, I want to switch title companies. And this has happened, I don't know, a handful of times for us where they refuse to give the 125%, call escrow, and all of a sudden title says, oh, no, we were just kidding. We'll give you the 125%. So you don't have to worry. Make sure you get it. Also, because of not receiving the points, because of the indebtedness thing, we're changing the way we do business now. It's a bit of a bookkeeping thing, but instead of writing the loan for $110,000, we would write it for $110,000 plus the points. So we just added in right then and there. The numbers come out exactly the same. There's no difference, but this way title can't come back and say, well, you didn't, you know, we're not paying you for the points. So we would add it into the loan amount, and it'd be a 0-point loan, basically. That's how it would look. And the other thing, I don't know, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but California, and some of you might know about it more than me, California just made remote online notarization legal at the beginning of this year. I don't know anybody that's using it, but they just made it legal, and I understand maybe it's delayed or something. Do you know anything about it, Bill?
I don't, I know that they passed it. I haven't used it. I'm kind of afraid to use it, shall we say?
Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid. I know a little bit how it works, but my question would be, and I'm going to talk to our lawyer next time I'm sorry?
How do they check your driver's license?
Well, it's not that. No, remote online notarization is where they do knowledge-based proof of your identity. So if you've ever gone to like Experian and check your credit like that, they will ask you questions. Yeah, and so yeah.
It's all my history so they can know who I am. Did I live at this address? Did I not? Do I have this bank account?
Right.
All this knowledgeable stuff.
Right.
I signed, and now they have identified that I am the person I say I am, because I can answer the question.
Yeah.
So they're working with like credit companies.
Yeah, they get it from the credit companies. I think like over 40 states have been using it for years now, but California just seems to be behind the time, which surprises me. Nonetheless, my question to my lawyer is, can I require it in our loan document, in our lender documents?
Golden rule.
Yeah, I know.
You have to go, you make the rule.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll do it or not. All right, anyway, enough of that. Yes.
Because I'm actually a notary. I just don't do.
Oh, okay. Do you have your book?
Not with me.
All right.
But at home, yes. Mine's not lost. But I actually wasn't even aware that we are allowed to do that. You're saying, did I hear you correctly, that they're allowed to do it?
Allowed to do what?
Ron.
It is now legal as of January 1st of this year. That's how I understand.
I know does that.
Well, you wouldn't do it because you're not running a website. This is done on a website. You're the one with the real book, and you look at the driver's license and all that. You're the safest way to do it.
About us doing that, and a lot of us, had concerns.
Yeah.
For those reasons.
My understanding is legal
It is legal in some states.
in California.
And apparently it is. Well, I'll have to look into
Yeah.
that.
I'm curious too. 'Cause I'm no expert on it, but I was just curious.
Question.
Yes.
Did title run a search to discover the ownership history, or how did
No, it's interesting. So that's right. I was going to mention this. So when this was all said and done, I called the escrow company because I wanted to know why they took a notarized grant deed from somebody anonymously. And what the guy told me, and I just experienced, we just sold a property. They always do that. That's normal. So we just sold a property about 3 weeks ago, and they called me, do you want to just send a mobile notary over to you? And I said, well, I'll just go to AAA and I'll get it notarized. And they said, fine, mail it in. That's how they do it. If I ran a title company, I mean, I'd be up in arms, but that's how they do it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, just on the online notary thing, I started doing it last year. There's a website called notarize.com.
Okay.
And we work with private money lenders. That's how we did our note. We've done that a few times, but we haven't quite closed a property using online notary. That's still been
Is this in California or?
in California.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I'd like to talk to you after. I'm curious. Okay.
I've done it a few times in Ohio.
Yeah, some states it's been around a while.
In Ohio, I've done it online.
Yeah. Well, here we are. Okay. Next. Okay. 2065 Oakdale Street. Another one Sal knows about. In fact, we had no involvement in this deal at all, but there's a really super important lesson here that I want to talk about. Property was brand new ground up construction built in 2019. House came out beautiful. Really nice house. No issues with the house at all. It was sold to a guy that had just a young guy that owned a computer company, or he sold a computer company. So apparently he was sitting on a pile of money. And I don't know if he had ever bought a house before or not. It doesn't matter that much. But the house was sold for $2.528 million. What kind of negotiation do you do for 4 significant digits here? But nonetheless, $2.528 million. The guy puts down $300,000 in earnest money, which is good. Cash sale. There's not going to be any loan or anything like that. And then one day he gets an email from escrow, send in the rest of the money. Here are the wire instructions. So he does. And fortunately, this guy is very proud of himself. I have a feeling he probably never bought a house before. He immediately calls escrow. He says, hey, I just wired the money in. And they go, we never asked for the money. We don't need the money yet. So what happened here? Fraudulent email. This is real. I mean, this stuff really, really, really does happen. Somebody intercepted or spoofed the escrow company and sent him fake wire instructions. He didn't know any better. Now the good news is he did this so quickly that he was able to contact his bank, which contacted the receiving bank quickly, and they had received the money already, but it was like in that just split second time frame where the money had not been transferred from the bank to the scammer. And so the bank had the money, they froze the money. And as a result, they did an investigation, took a couple of weeks, not a big deal. He got his money back, and he figured out how to do this correctly, and the deal closed normally. So all's well that ends well. But what's the lesson learned here? Yes, so always verbally confirm wire instructions. Very good. So as I said, we sold a property a couple of weeks ago, and I just randomly pulled up an email, and you see this, every escrow company has something like this. All title companies put a message like this on there. And I did this chart a couple of, month or two ago, I don't remember, but I didn't read this. And a couple of days ago, I read it, and it's wrong. So be aware, online banking fraud is on the rise. If you receive an email containing wire transfer instructions, call your escrow officer immediately to verify the information prior to sending funds. You're going to send funds to title. Do not call the escrow company to confirm wire instructions. You have no idea where they got the wire instructions from. You call title. That's where you're sending the money. The way we do it is I've got a procedure that I go through. So once we get the title prelim, I will call title, and they don't publish their wire instructions anymore. They used to put them in the title prelims, but not anymore. I call title, I say, please send me your wire instructions, and generally they do it right then and there. So as long as I know that I'm speaking to the real title company and I get an email literally 5 seconds later, it's probably okay, but that's not enough. So a couple of days before we wire the money, I go online. I don't take phone numbers from emails or anything like that. I certainly don't accept wire instructions from an escrow company. I go online, I look up the phone number of the title company. More than likely, I already have it because everybody's doing business with Chicago Title and Fidelity and you know, all the rest. So you kind of have you kind of know the phone numbers anyway. I get it online, I call them, I say, this is Jeff with Private Lending Direct. We're going to be wiring money to you. I'd like to get a verbal confirmation of your wire instructions. They all know the game. What I learned by doing this from one title company, I thought it was kind of clever. The lady said, okay, I'm going to read half the number to you. You read the other half back to me. I don't know if this really solves anything, but it made me feel good. So that's what we do. So I tell them, look, that's what we're going to do, and we do that. And then we go through the bank instruction, or the name of the bank and all that kind of stuff. It's really the account number that's the important thing here. We do that. And then the day I'm wiring the money, I do the same thing. I'll get the phone number from another place. These are big, giant companies, and you generally never get the same phone number, and you never get the same person there. And I do the same thing, and hopefully everything matches up. Fortunately, I shouldn't even say this, but we haven't had any problems. Now I'm jinxing. I shouldn't say this. I'm jinxing myself. This is one issue we haven't had, but I will tell you, of every single part of any loan we've ever done, ever, this is the thing that's wiring money to title is the scariest part of any deal. We are fearless on what we will loan to. We're fearless on the amount we'll loan. None of that really bothers me, but I have no idea where this goddamn money is going. So I really do find it scary. So it really is important to verbally confirm wire instructions, whether you're a lender, a borrower, whether you're buying, selling, whatever. Make sure that you verbally confirm.
Maybe 6, 7 years ago, we started hearing more about all this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then what I do, and I've always done this, I immediately call and I write to everybody to let them know that we wired the money. Nobody's ever called back and said, no, you did the wrong thing, thankfully. So this is the other thing, too. My question, I know this will never happen, but when is escrow and most title companies going to start using encrypted email? I don't think they ever will. This would help. It's not going to solve everything, but this would help. Most of them don't, which is one reason why we don't accept or wire instructions from escrow. Okay, I think I beat title to death. Next. Yeah. Okay, my favorite. So I told you a little bit about how Ellen and I started, right? 2010, shot my mouth off. 2012, we got a lawyer, and the lawyer explained to us that if you're going to be a lender in California, if you're going to call yourself a lender, if you do any loans on real estate, you must be licensed to originate the loan. That's it, no exception. There are some benefits to it, but no exception for that. So Ellen and I in 2012, I guess, we got a broker, and he's been originating our loans for us ever since. However, in 2015, Ellen and I were thinking, what would happen if something happens to this guy? We're dead. So, so we decided, we should get licensed. And without getting into the long explanation here, it's a totally different presentation. There are 2 licenses in California for lending. You can become a licensed California real estate broker through the DRE, or you can become a California finance lender through the DPFI, or some combination of DPFI. Now, becoming a broker anymore is like getting a master's degree. It's a big deal. It allows you to transact real estate. You can hire and fire agents. You can become a mortgage broker, all that. We don't do any of that. The only thing Ellen and I do are loans. So becoming a finance lender made a lot more sense to us. It's a lot easier license to get. That was in 2015. And I'll add that the way we meet our borrowers, we don't even use a website. We meet our borrowers at places like this. Let me ask, how many people here lend money? Good. Okay. So you already know the answer. You don't need a website to be doing this. Nonetheless, a lot of people want to see a website. And in June of 2019, we started getting phone calls. And people were calling up, say, oh, I forgot my book. I was going to bring I forgot a book. It was a real book. But we started getting phone calls. Hi, this is Joe in Bumblebee, Minnesota. We spoke a couple of weeks ago, and I sent you some money, and my deal is closing in a couple of days. How are you doing on the loan? What? I don't even know where Bumblebee, Minnesota is. I made that up. So I call him back, and he explains what's going on. I say, how did you even know about me? He goes, well, I looked at your website. Turns out this is not our website. So in 2019, I go online, Private Lending Direct LLC, our exact company name. The guy's perfect. PrivateLendingDirectLLC.com. Type it in, and here we go. And so this was the website that this scoundrel was using. And when you called the phone number there, he would answer as me. Say, hi, this is Jeff Smallowitz. How can I help you? Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So that was the first page of the website. This is the last page. And so you can see it. I'm going to blow this area up here. Oh, I'm not going to blow it up. There we go. So I don't want to give out the phone numbers. I don't want anybody calling and encouraging this guy. I don't even know if the phone number still works. So I hid it. But what was also on this website, we live in Hermosa Beach, and this under here is our real home address. So there's nothing like scamming people and then having them know your home address so they can show up and, take care of business. But the important thing here is, if you notice, it says info@privatelendingdirectllc.com. So when Genius here, technical genius, right? This is what Christina's saying. When I created, or when we started Private Lending Direct LLC in 2015, we did a DBA, doing business as, which allows you to not use your whole company name. I didn't want to bother with the LLC. So I did that. Everything's legal. So I reserved privatelendingdirect.com, .net, and .org, and a few others, but I did not reserve privatelendingdirectllc.com. I keep walking over here. I can do it here. So 2015, we got licensed, reserved privatelendingdirect.com, .net, and .org. Really had no web presence because we don't find people online. I didn't care about having a website. We didn't really have any web presence. I did not reserve privatelendingdirectllc.com, .net, or .org, but somebody else did. In fact, they just reserved the .com. They did not reserve .net or .org. So I immediately reserved the .net and .org, but now what do I do? And
Oh my gosh.
whoa, is it raining? That must be the air conditioning. All right, I'm gonna be careful standing there. So we started getting more phone calls. And this is people all over, and every single person I asked them, please send me all the information that this guy was asking for. And they did, and I've got a notebook. I was going to bring it. It's the same notebook that I brought to small claims court when we were sued by some guy in Oakland. So I had to fly up there and defend ourselves. I think it's okay. Yeah, just put it over there. If that thing falls.
What was the scam? I mean, they're supposed
So what
to
he
get
was,
money.
so what he was doing, this guy, you would go to the website, because it says, this is what we do, allegedly. We fix and flip. We lend on fix and flips, buy and hold, cash out refinancing, gap financing, constructions, whatever that means. This guy was not, he did not speak English very well, and commercial. So you would call up, you say, I've got I'm doing a flip in Wisconsin somewhere. He says, great, happy to do the loan, but we need a $5,000 application fee. We need $5,000 up front. It turns out the total amount that I know people, so how did he get hold of me? That's the other question, because this is not our phone number. People skip traced me. So the total amount that was borrowed, and one guy lost about $40,000. This guy was really good. People skip traced me. And so I don't know what the total amount is. The total amount I think was about $70,000 or $80,000 that people got ripped off for. And you'd send your money in. One guy sent Bitcoin in. I don't know. I don't even know how to use Bitcoin. But that was a scam. So he'd get upfront money, and then he would disappear. Okay? Okay. So what I did, and it's an insidious crime, because it was really hard to stop. I filed reports with the police, the FBI on their IC3 website, State Attorney General, the SEC, and on and on and on. Any place I could file a report, I filed a report. Nobody does anything. In fact, I went to a conference, I think it was earlier this year, where they had a couple of FBI guys there giving a presentation on scams. And I asked them, what does it take if you report something on IC3, which is the website that they use to track online fraud. What does it take to get your guys' attention was really the question. And he said, you've got to have losses of something in excess of $25 million. Well, I thankfully, we didn't get that many phone calls. But I don't know what the total number was. So most of these, they don't do anything. I did talk to our local police, and the local police was very nice. And he said, look, we just don't have the resources to investigate something like this. And even if we did, we wouldn't know how to shut it down either. So what I did, I created a one-page, it took me a little while, one-page scam warning website under privatelendingdirect.com. And I just explained what's going on. And then things seemed to subside. This was like in July of 2019. The other thing I did, I went on whois.org, I think, whatever. And I was able to look up, did I mess up? I was able to look up privatelendingdirect.com, and I found, and it gives you some information, not a lot of information, but one of the important pieces of information that it gave me was that the URL, this guy was a cheap bastard, URL was paid for until September of 2019. So I had a couple of choices. I also called an intellectual property, an IP attorney, and I discussed with her what to do. And she said one of the options is to file a trademark infringement lawsuit, which is called a UDRP, and don't ask me what that stands for. This is resolution procedure, but I don't remember what the rest of it is. You file this lawsuit at WIPO, the World Intellectual Property Organization, located in Switzerland. Yeah, wow. It's not as difficult as you think. Apparently it's done all the time. It costs about $5,000. You get your answer back in like 2 to 4 months, she said. And then, in all likelihood, she said, you'll almost certainly win. And then you get ownership of whatever you're disputing. So we would get ownership of privatelendingdirect.llc.com. So that was one option. $5,000, wait, 3-4 months. Or it was already July. I knew the website expired in September. Was this guy going to pay the $15 to re-up the URL? So we waited. Turns out he didn't pay the $15. I was able to get, I immediately jumped online. I was able to reserve everything. So now we're the proud owner of privatelendingdirect.com.org and llc.com.org. Interesting. Well, I'll get to it. I'll get to it in a minute. So we just waited him out, And we haven't had a phone call since, and hopefully I'm not going to get a phone call since. It's like any other crook. You know, if you make it a little teeny bit hard for them, they go away, they go to someplace, you know, more fertile grounds where they can get away with this kind of stuff. So what are the lessons learned here? I'll just flip to it. One has nothing to do with websites. Don't do business anonymously. Okay, I just asked, there were, I don't know how many people raised their hands, like half a dozen people that are lending money in this room right now. You don't have to go online on some strange website and start, you know, sending upfront money in to someplace you don't know. There are people here right now. You guys are smart enough to know that real estate clubs are a really good place to meet resources like this. Not everybody does, unfortunately. Don't do business anonymously. The way Ellen and I do business, we lend our own money, and we are not going to loan you 2 cents unless we have met you at a real estate club and that we have gone to lunch or dinner with you and maybe looked at a couple of your properties. We want to make sure you're real. Juliana knows this because we did this with her recently, and we haven't done a deal with Juliana, but we will. And that's how we do it, and that's how you should do it. This business is formed on relationships. I hate to say that because it's sort of, you know, everybody says that, but it's really true. And then the other, as I said, don't pay upfront fees, certainly not to a lender. Unless you're doing gigantic commercial deals, and nobody here is doing gigantic commercial deals. So you might have to pay a credit check, $50, $75, that you could send to the lender. So you're going to be out $50 or $75. That's not a big deal. You don't send appraisal money to a lender either. You send that to the appraiser. So really your only risk here should be $50 or $75. Don't pay application fees or anything like that. This industry, this segment of the industry has moved on from that. If anybody's asking you for big application fees or even little application fees, don't take a hike. Go to the next lender. There's no reason to do that. Okay, I've got 2 other things to talk about. You said I have 15 minutes or so. Okay, so I'm going to do this really, really, hopefully quick. As a result of all of this, I had gone, actually, this I'll talk about after if you want to hear it, but I went to every single bank that these people wired money to. And I talked to the people there, and I filed fraud claims and all that, and I told them to file a fraud claim. But when I was at one of the banks, actually we were at our bank talking to a guy there, and he looked at our account, and he goes, "Whoa, you have a lot of money in your account. You sure you want to do this?" And I go, "What are you talking about? What's the big deal? It's safe here, isn't it?" Well, so what he suggested, he gave us some really good advice. I'll give you guys. Open up 2 banks. Or let me ask you a question first. If I passed a sheet of paper around, let me borrow this. I put 4 columns on the sheet of paper, and I pass it around with a pen. And the columns are your name, the name of your bank account number, and the routing number for your bank. If I pass this around, how many of you would fill it out? Everybody's shaking your head, no. Why wouldn't you fill it out? It's none of your business, Jeff. Is that a good reason? Fine. You guys know that when you write a check to anybody, what do you think is on the check? Everything. So, you know, I know we don't write as many checks anymore, but we still write checks and we wire money. A lot of that information is on there when you wire money. Not a good idea. Well, I mean, you have no choice, right? So what this guy suggested is you've got at least 2 bank accounts. One is the public-facing bank account. This is your checking account. This is where you keep your money. This is what's on, excuse me, what's on the front of your check. You can assume everybody sees this. You can post it up on a billboard. You can assume everybody knows about it. Open another account. Make it a money market account, a savings account. It doesn't make any difference what it is. This is a secret. It's not secret, but it's not an account that anybody needs to know exists. So you don't give this number out. Nobody knows about it. So when you have money, you sell a property or you get paid back from a loan, you have that money go into the public-facing checking account. The money is there. Everybody knows the account number. Immediately, you transfer that money into your secret, I'll say, your private account that nobody knows about, and you just keep some nominal amount of money in your checking account to pay bills, credit card, whatever it is, something that would not, be life-changing if the money got stolen from you. Similarly, when it comes time to make a loan or buy a house or something, if you want to wire a pile of money out, you go to your savings account, you transfer the money, that amount of money into your checking account, which everybody sees, and that's how you send it out. So you're always transacting money from this public-facing account, but you don't keep a lot of money in there until it's absolutely necessary. So those are the two accounts. I thought that was a really good idea, and that's what we're doing. Let me take a drink, please. Okay. I have 10 minutes. Good. I think I can do it. Let me skip that. I'm going to do this first, and then I'll come back. So this is a deal that we did in Riverside. This is the house blurred out. In this case, I don't want to publicly talk about who the borrower was or the property or anything like that, because I don't want to embarrass them. But there were a few lessons learned here. So just so you know, and I think I've said this already, probably 10 times, but Ellen and I loan to experienced rehabbers inside of I-15. As you saw, because you saw half our address, we live in Hermosa Beach. And so I'm not going to drive to Sacramento, I'm not going to drive to Palm Springs or whatever to look at a property. So we draw the line at I-15, which is about an hour and a half drive for us. There are plenty of properties in Los Angeles and actually North Orange County as well. So I also said that we meet all our borrowers at real estate clubs, and it's true. And we had met some years ago a very experienced commercial builder, and his wife was a residential real estate agent. Really nice people. We really liked them. And he had almost everything that you needed to do something like this. He'd never flipped a house before. Now, note a requirement, experienced rehabber. He was not an experienced rehabber, but he had a huge amount of commercial construction experience. So we had a lot of confidence in him. And she was a residential agent. So they purchased a very clean flip, thankfully, in Riverside. We made the drive, and they bought it in November 2017 for $215,000. I can't believe how cheap properties are in the Inland Empire. Anyway, $215,000, November of 2017. Rehab estimate was $47K, ARV $350. And just so you know, and again, I'm not going to belabor it here, but the rule of thumb that we use, you take the purchase price plus the rehab, and that has to be 75% of the ARV. And in this case, it's exactly 75% of the ARV. We anticipated it would take about 6 months to flip the house. The house was, like I said, very clean. It had a really nice galley kitchen. The wall needed to be taken down. You put an island in, you open it up. You guys know what I'm talking about. The bathrooms were a bit of a mess. The rest of the house, is truly paint and carpet. It really was in pretty good shape. So what happened here? They completed the property in 6 months, just like he said. I think actually maybe a little bit sooner. And let me go back for a second to refresh my memory. Okay, this was November of 17. He completed it 6 months later, May of 2018, for $45K. Now recall the estimate was $47, so he came in on schedule. He came in within budget. Not bad. The problem there were a couple of problems. One, they had no vision. They couldn't see that you really needed, and Ellen and I can't tell a rehabber what to do. We're not going to do that. But there was no vision. They needed to knock the wall down in the kitchen. Didn't do that. Just bare minimum in the bathrooms. And the paint and carpet and everything. The house would have sold for $350,000. He did the bare minimum he needed for it to be worth $350,000. The problem was she thought they had just completed a renovation on the Taj Mahal. And so with an ARV at the time of $350,000, she puts it on the market for $389,000. And what do you think happens? Well, I told you, right here, it sat on the market. Nothing. It just sat there. Didn't sell. It would have sold for $350,000. I know that. But it sat there, and then every couple of months she would lower the price, another $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever. Finally, now you saw the plot of housing prices going up, and they were doing okay. So finally, it sold in May of 2019, a year later from when it was done, for $365,000. Who do you think made that money? We did, right? I mean, like I said, when you're flipping houses, time is not on your side. And so they didn't make any money on this property. They would have, had they put it in the market for $350 right off the bat. They would have made, whatever the anticipated profit was. So they didn't. All right. So the lesson learned here. I'm not going to ask you. I'm just going to go to it. Two things. As lenders, as anybody really, stay in your lane. Okay, don't if you get good at something, you have a process down, follow your process. And I'm going to give myself, I'll give Ellen and I a little credit. What we did here was not like truly veering off, into unknown territory. So I don't feel too bad about what we did here, but in general, you want to stay in your lane once you have your process going. The other thing is, and we have learned this, okay, thank you, from Sal. I don't know, there's Sal. When you get greedy, you get nothing. And Sal is the master at not getting greedy, but at seeing a profit and taking a profit when it's available. And it's something I've always respected from Sal. A lot of people think that they're going to try to squeeze the last dollar out of a deal, and you end up getting nothing because you waited too long. And so if you can get some money out of a deal, take it. I was going to comment that years and years ago, you've heard of Michael Gerber. He wrote the E-Myth, and now he's got this Kiyosaki franchise going where he's got all different E-Myth books out. I was actually a client of Michael Gerber about 100 years ago. But one of the things he said that I've always taken to heart, and I really like, is you get good at one thing. He's really into franchising. Get good at one thing, systematize it, and then do it over and over and over and over again. And I think most of the big important franchises that you see around that's what they do. They veer out a little bit. I mean, you're not going to get a salad at McDonald's anymore, but you're also, they're going to be selling hamburgers forever. So, question, comments? Okay, let me go on. I've got one more and 5 minutes. 5 minutes to do it. Okay.
You talked about a little bit about relationships also. You mentioned, you built a relationship with these people, the couple that borrowed the money, and they did it now this, flip.
Yeah.
And it was their decision to hold on to it and put that pricing. But that kind of affects because you're there, like, what am I going to do? I lent you the money.
Yeah, we could have been hard asses about it. We're not. I mean, because we do have a default interest clause in our note. We could have raised our rate to, I don't remember what the number was, 18% or something like that. We don't do that. We could have forced them to do a refinance or charge them a lot of money to modify the loan. Ellen and I just don't do that. So we're pretty good about it, but maybe we should, because it might have helped them. And frankly, we could have turned the money over 2 more times in the time frame it took them to do this. One more I just want to do quickly. There's no lesson learned here, but I just want to talk about this because I know that there can be problems. So it has to do with retirement plans. Who here has a self-directed retirement plan of any flavor? Okay, good. Okay. In the realm of retirement plans, there are custodians. You'll hear these terms: custodians, administrators, and facilitators. Now, Ellen and I used to have a self-directed IRA. We turn everything into a 401k plan, which I highly recommend you do if you can. And we use a facilitator for that. So facilitators form self-directed 401k plans. It's not what I'm talking about right now. So forget about facilitators. Custodians hold and safeguard IRA funds. Administrators administer the funds. So administrators will provide you statements. If you want to do a particular deal, they'll tell you whether it's prohibited or not. They're good at that. But they are not allowed to hold your money. By law, all IRA funds, by law, must be held by a custodian. Custodians are heavily regulated, depending on whether you're doing business with a bank, a brokerage, one of the self-directed IRA companies. They're going to be regulated by the IRS, Department of Labor, FDIC, State Banking Commissioner. You can just read the rest of that. They're also your fiduciary. Administrators, nothing. So when you open, and many people don't know whether the company that they're doing business with, 2 minutes. Many people don't know that the company they're doing business with are either an administrator or a custodian. You want to do business with a custodian because many of the custodians, all the custodians that you'll see online are also administrators. It costs you no different. The amount of money is the same. So the administrators have a custodian in the background. They take your money, they give it to the custodian. Just so you know, American Pension Services was a Utah-based company. They were an administrator. The guy who's running it embezzled $24 million, a big mess. A lot of people lost a lot of money. This does not, I'm not saying it never happened, but it doesn't happen with custodians. So I think, yeah, with me, I've got a list. If you want to look up your particular IRA company and see if they're a custodian or an administrator, I'll show you the list. I have it in my bag here. My recommendation is do business with a custodian. Why would you not? It's going to cost you the same amount of money. You don't have to deal with, there's no reason to deal with an administrator. Now, I'm not saying you're in dire trouble here or anything like that. But if you're going to do it, go with a custodian. So, all right. So I think that is it. How did I do? 1 minute over. Could have been worse. All right. So I'm Jeff Smallowitz. Thank you.
Anybody, any pressing questions in the room that we need to take?
I have one right here.
Yes.
I just had one question. This might have been asked already. Did you have any term limits on any of your loans?
Every loan we have.
Five-year flip.
Yep.
Normally they're 12 or 18 months with a couple extensions.
Every loan we do is for 6 months. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good point. Every loan we do is for 6 months. After 6 months, well, it depends how the loan is written, but after 6 months, we can call the loan. We can, but we don't.
For the examples you had, how did you handle those extensions?
We just let it go. We have done extensions in the past, but generally, if we know the borrower, we just let it go. Our lawyer tells us we shouldn't do that. We should, do it formally. I know, but that's what we're doing. We just did a loan mod, in fact, just a few days ago.
Any more quick questions?
Yes, I'll hang around if anybody has any other questions.
Beautiful. All right, guys. Beautiful.
Thank you.